Section 2. Starting a little bit late, so I didn't do the countdown timer thing, but yeah, I replaced the spooky countdown timer from last week with a less spooky one. Today we are continuing to talk a little bit about usability, and I've asked you all to complete an abbreviated kind of node assignment using a worksheet to analyze the usability of some artifact. And so I'm curious to see what you came up with. I wanted to talk about a few different things you may have come across as you were working on yours, and especially if you had any trouble with it, let me know, and I can try to work through it on the stream today. That's anyone here, you can make that request, or anyone on the stream if you have anything you'd like for me to take a look at. I'd love to spend a little time actually digging into some specifics as much as possible. Also, just a couple of general announcements and things administratively. The next topic on Monday, I'm going to live stream, and it's going to be an important one. I want to talk about accessibility and how to design your project so that it can be accessed by as many people as possible. This is kind of like usability, but it's a more like rigorous kind of thing, and it's going to be much more specific. Whereas this usability thing is almost philosophical in some cases. The accessibility one should be very practical. It also is really important because when you are creating content, digital content, putting it out there as a member of the university community, as someone putting things out here, you actually are legally obligated to make your work as accessible as possible according to Section 508 of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but show you kind of how to make sure that you're compliant. And it usually just comes down to a couple of common sense strategies, and I'd like to teach you those and make sure you're aware of them. So, okay. Question on the stream. What is that? I can't see it. Yes, it is due today, but if you have a question, I can try to answer it. I don't know what your question is, though. Yes, it is. What is your question, etc.? Or whatever, I don't know. I'm not sure what I can talk through what you're doing, or you'll kind of see it. Oh, not that one. Okay. Oh, not that one. I think you're looking at the old one. So here's this thing. Here's the right one. And it's linked from the assignment now, but nope, not that. That's not the right thing. That's not what I just copied. Oh man, okay. But that is actually, hold on a second. Let's try that again. There we go, that's the right link. Let me delete this YouTube link. Even though I did want to talk about this video. So yes, take a look at that. I can understand how the notebook that you may have come across would have been confusing, because it would be referencing things that we haven't talked about. So, but usability, that's what we're interested in here. Yes, so complete that worksheet and turn it in, and I'll talk through some examples with it today, so you'll see, Emily, how that is meant to work. All right, cool. So hopefully that makes sense, but as I explain it, just let me know what's going on. Okay, so coming up again, accessibility on Monday, and then your teaching takes over for the rest of the week next week. So some of you are teaching Wednesday, some of you are teaching Friday. And when I say teaching, there is an assignment. It's in Canvas, so take a look. Next week, your assignment is to teach something related to the topic that your project has to do with. And then for the week after, your assignment is to teach something related to the method that you're using to create your project. So week 1, it might be teach something about climate change. Week 2, it might be teach something about podcasting, or obviously put that into whichever formula makes sense for your project. But that's the idea. And in terms of the teaching formats, it can be a live kind of workshop that you run with people participating in real time using Discord or Zoom or something like that, or it can be a pre-recorded video. Something like that. So those are pretty much the options. So I can't think of much else, but if you can think of some other way to teach your content, it should be something that someone could experience in about 15 minutes or so. I'm certainly open to suggestions, but that's all I can think of. So let me know if you have any suggestions. Otherwise, the other thing I wanted to mention is There are a couple of you I haven't heard from recently, and I've been reaching out. I hope you're getting those messages, but I will continue to reach out. But if you are watching right now, I want to encourage you to contact me, and let's figure out a plan, right? So we are not at the point of no return with this class. There is still hope if you are still behind, if you're behind on the big project. The big project is really the big thing for the class, though. So if you are bogged down in something else from the class, like the earlier nodes, just leave it, like just move on to the big project. But let's talk about how to do that. Let's talk about what you need to do to make sure that you can complete the class successfully, or something else. Like if we need to come up with a even more different kind of plan B or plan C, we can probably still do that. But we need to talk. So please get in touch. I want to help you. I don't want to leave anyone out, but I can't. I don't know what's in some cases. I don't know what's going on, so I can't do anything except continue to reach out, and hopefully you will respond. So please do. Okay, so let's talk about the worksheet here, and let me work through a little bit. What I'd love to do is, if you have something that you got stuck with, actually let me delete this because that's something I added. If you got something, I'll put it as a question, was there something you got stuck on, or you weren't sure which column to put it in, or just even the artifact you were studying, you just weren't even sure at all how to approach analyzing its usability? And I did skim a lot of the submissions, and the ones I looked at looked fine. It looked like you got the idea and you were doing well with it. But I think certainly some kinds of things, like podcasts in particular, might have been kind of tricky. Just you might have had to be a little creative in terms of filling these in. So, and I'd like to work through some of those, and I will, but I would prefer to do specific requests if there are any. And then if not, I can just go ahead and do something. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so let's look at a video. Let's do it that way. There was one, and I showed it here a second ago. This one, so Ginger Snaps submitted her analysis of, and she didn't say which video. She just titled it "YouTube Video about how to paint kitchen cabinets." I think it was this one, and I found that somewhat amusing because this is a video I had watched recently. So I actually knew the video that she was describing based on how she filled in the usability worksheet. And I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that video recently. And I also was kind of critical of the video when I saw it. We, in my house, in my family, we have been talking about doing some work in our kitchen. And I was kind of like, we could just paint the cabinets. And so I did a little Googling and came to this video. And I was like, no way, this is not going to work. So I actually sort of presented it to my wife, but like, she was like, you've got to be kidding me. So this, and if you look at the comments on the videos, this video, a lot of the comments are dunking on this video for making it look super easy, when in fact it is not super easy to do this kind of work that she's doing in this video. But it is, in a lot of ways, designed well as a thing to use. Like the usability of the video itself, I think it's put together well. And so I think that's good. I think just the technique is a little iffy. This video was worse as far as making something seem super easy that I think is probably not. And it has these, pleasant people doing this DIY stuff and making it look super easy to get a paint sprayer and, do all this work. And but look at, this is their kitchen. You have to basically destroy your kitchen, which is like the point of painting your cabinets is that you don't have to destroy your kitchen. Like you can just paint them while they're there. But they basically had to rip it all out. Anyway, this is the video. Now, if we're going to break it down in terms of usability, I can just kind of talk through some of these. Some of these, I think, are going to be handled by the platform, obviously. Some are going to be handled by the creator. And I want to talk about both so you can see the differences, because as a creator, you're going to have to pay attention to the things that creators are doing on purpose to make their products more usable, but also pay attention to the things that the platform does for you and doesn't do for you, because you want to make sure you take advantage of the things that it's doing and don't work against those things, because you might unintentionally if you don't think about what they are. So let's take a look at this video and the visibility of system status, right? So, I mean, this is YouTube. YouTube is the platform, not video, but YouTube. And YouTube it's a website, so we can see it, and that's how we know it's working. But also within the video itself, we can see where we are within the video, by way of the playhead. And so this is telling us that this is a video that is here. We can see the imagery of the video, so it's working. We're not seeing error codes, right? So we kind of know what's happening with it. Also, watch what happens to the playhead. When I click the play button, it changes. So even if there was no imagery on the video, I can see that the video is playing because the play icon turned into the pause icon. And this is a familiar kind of UI thing that you see in lots of other platforms, but it is on purpose. Like, it's something that designers have realized helps users use their products because it indicates the system status intuitively. Like, it's something that we don't notice, and that means it's working well, is that the fact that we don't notice it. And it also means like we click the same place, so we don't have to move our mouse to click different positions to do the thing that we are likely wanting to do, which is play and pause this. That's a good example of visibility of system status. The creators, there's not really much they've done here on purpose for that. It's just, it is what it is, right? So the match between the system and the real world, this is a bit more of an abstract one, but if you think about different parts of this, again, we're thinking about the play, like the visible part of the video as the thing that we're using mostly. We've got a play button and the pause button, and these icons are things that we see in other media, and we're used to this. So we're used to seeing this on our podcast app or on other video apps or other video services. Like, it's a common iconography that everyone's using, and that helps everybody, right? If you created some kind of like custom icon that meant play, you would kind of have to teach people how to use it, and they're not going to bother. So they're not going to bother to learn your custom symbols. We use symbols that already exist. And these symbols actually predate. Like, these are things that YouTube is using because at some point, I don't know the history of this, but that like right-pointing triangle has been used as a thing to indicate playing since the use of tape media. So like VHS tapes, audio tapes have that kind of icon to indicate this is how we move the playhead forward on this tape. So I don't know where that came from, but it's kind of an arrow. But YouTube is using that. So it's something that we've seen before in the real world. And when we get here, if we've never seen a website before, never seen a YouTube video before, we have seen that symbol before probably, and we can click on it to use it. So that's the example of the real world kind of thing coming in here. There's other parts of it too, I guess, like the gear icon, but the gear icon is a bit more of a symbolic kind of thing. We understand that to relate to settings, not because there's anything inherent about like gears operating inside of a video, but like it's a common icon that other platforms, plenty of platforms use to indicate that that's where the settings are. Okay, so that's a quick example. User control and freedom. Of course, we have control in terms of playing and pausing, right? We can click different places to do different things. It supports different ways of accomplishing the same thing. So playing and pausing, you can also use the space bar, right? These are things that you learn as you use the platform. You can also click on the video, or you can click on the play button, pause button. Right, so we're in total control of whether or not the video is playing. It is thankfully not the case most of the time, but it used to be a design trend on the website. Like, you would go to the website and all of a sudden it would start playing music at you and video starts playing. Some websites still do that. A lot of news websites still do that. I find it super annoying. So that's a case where they've taken away control. They've said, you need to listen to my content now, and they start playing it. And that negatively impacts the usability of their website because I am annoyed by it, and then I close the browser, and so I'm done, right? So that's the kind of thing that you don't want to do. YouTube doesn't do that. It lets you decide when you want to hear something or not. But yeah, a lot of the like CNN or whatever, like you go to the website and then it's like, you must want to hear our content, and so it starts playing it. And no, I want to decide to hear your content. So anyway, just a kind of a minor annoyance. Not minor, it's a major annoyance. That shouldn't be a thing. But yeah, you want to give people control. The other thing, and this is kind of, so user control and flexibility are kind of related because flexibility means that you can use it different ways and you can control how you're using it different ways. And this video, I think, has done something pretty interesting and helpful. It has broken down the sections of the video into essentially chapters for different steps. And for a DIY video, I think this is really helpful because when you do a project, you might get through steps 5, you might get halfway through it and then run into a problem, and you need an answer very quickly sometimes. Like your glue is drying, and you've got to figure out if you've got the joining, you put the joint together right, or whatever. So it's something that often I find myself needing to jump to a specific point in the video, and I can do that much more easily. So if I'm just kind of curious about like, okay, when do I do the poly? Like, do I have to wait for the paint to fully cure? I can jump right here to see how she does with the poly, and jump right to it. And also, this is kind of, I think this is a recent thing. At least I've only noticed it recently. YouTube adds this little thing here within the little player that labels the chapter that it's on. So I don't know. I've not actually done this on any of my videos, but I think I should. I think this is something, like especially my instructional, like how to do kind of thing videos. Not the live streams because it's harder, but like the shorter videos, I think that could be really helpful. So you can jump to it. Oh, it's over here too. Oh, that's great. I just noticed that. Has this always been here? Have you seen this before? Like, that's really helpful. I wonder how you do that. Huh. Well, I'll check it later. But it's something that if you are doing a video, you should definitely do something like this, especially if there are steps to it or chapters to it. That's nice. I mainly seen it used whenever there's like somebody uploads an album or like a playlist or a mixtape or something, and then you see like different timestamps for like specific songs, and so you see the name of the song. But that's really cool that it has that there. It also has the transcript, so the transcript is another way to find your way through this. Again, the flexibility of use, right? So you can look for the thing that you are interested in. You could also like copy and paste this text somewhere else and just read it and like print it out to have it with you in your kitchen while you're painting the cabinets if you don't want to bring your computer in there, which is probably a good idea because if you're spraying, you're going to get paint in the fans of your computer. So, although I don't think she spray paints in this one, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but she makes it look way easier than it is, I'm sure. Okay, so I think the rest of these are pretty straightforward. I guess error prevention is one that some people had a question about in the first section, which is something that you don't see. Like at least in looking at it right now, I haven't encountered any errors, and you don't often see errors on YouTube that are errors of YouTube itself. You might get network errors, and it'll tell you that there's a network error usually, or it'll say something like experiencing interruptions, and it'll kind of show you why. But that's something that's been handled already by the designers of the platform, YouTube. And so the fact that you don't see those error messages means that in terms of usability, they've designed the system to either not fail often and also to fail silently most of the time. So when it fails, we don't even know it. It just fails in the background, and then it keeps going for us. So YouTube is a well-designed platform in that sense, at least, technically. Okay, so that was kind of me talking through it. Questions, like what are you working on? I mean, did you run into any trouble in terms of some of these, or did the talking through make sense in terms of what you've already done?
My only issue is the helping documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the example in your live stream on Monday kind of helped me a little bit.
Okay.
But I think I was able to figure it out, but I'm still just wondering what that exactly was.
Okay. What is your artifact that you're analyzing?
I did Humans of Paris.
Okay. Great. So.
It's like an Instagram page.
Yeah.
And so what I just put for the platform, I just said like if the user wanted to block or report this account, they offer steps to follow to make that happen. And then for the creator, I said that the creator included a link to the website so that the user could find out more information about it, like in more detail.
Yeah, I think that's what I would have put too, or like if they have a contact form, I guess that, or the ability to leave comments on the Instagram page, that would be, or whatever you call it, the profile page. Yeah, I think that would be a way that help is being accommodated through the platform, and the creator has made that available. Like as a creator, you could probably make it really hard to find you. Like you could be super anonymous and have no website. There's lots of ways that, and I can think of several creative projects that are kind of like that, where there is just no help or documentation. You're just sort of left to struggle with it, and that's something some people have chosen to do, and that's fine. But it is nice to have help and documentation. It sounds like Humans of Paris has chosen to be more helpful, so that's good. Yeah. So again, there's going to be different things, and a lot of these you may find that essentially what you have to say is that this hasn't been done well. Like I think that is a thing that you may find yourself doing, and that's better than NA. Like I want to make sure you say that at least try to find something for each of these rows. Even if you have to say like this is not actually implemented well or this is missing, and these are things that like sometimes it's the platform, sometimes it is the user, and you can note that. Like on a video, this is a video that has a transcript, that has the chapter thing. So these are things that the creator has either done deliberately or enabled YouTube to do automatically. These are things that not everyone has done. So let's take a look at these people. Let's see. So they do have a transcript. It's an auto-generated transcript. So right away, that's something that they or either these people or Lowe's media team or whoever made this video, they've decided not to improve it, or they've decided to trust YouTube, and that's better than nothing. But it is something that the usability of this would be increased if they went through the transcript and made sure that it was spelled correctly and clear and things were what they were supposed to be. And you can tell the skimming it doesn't have any punctuation, so it's definitely not has not been edited. Yeah. How to replace a subfloor. Oh man, that's a big one. How to remove a wall? You just knock it down. Anyway, so these are. I enjoy actually like DIY YouTube. I actually do spend a lot of time watching it. I'm not even working on anything. It's just kind of relaxing to me sometimes, just to watch people build stuff or fix stuff. So okay, now there are a couple other kinds of things people are doing. What should I show you next, if anything? So, let's see. Jessica, what were you working? I think you're still working on yours. But what artifact are you analyzing? Oh, okay, so it's an app. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'd have to pull it up to be able to talk to it. But I imagine it's pretty straightforward in terms of the worksheet, like as far as figuring out what goes where and so on. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Wayne, what kind of thing are you analyzing?
I was going to do a website.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know which one I wanted to do.
Yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, there's so many, right? So many different kinds of websites too. So you kind of have to. And I think this is actually a good thing for you to do because it'll help narrow down the kind of thing you're making. You know, because by looking for one, you will kind of see what's out there, and then help you understand what you want to try to do yourself. So, because like you kind of have the same issue with as someone wanting to make a website. Like you can make all kinds of things. So what do you actually make is the real challenge. I'll show you one that I don't know if this is the kind of thing at all, but I'll show you an example of something that because it occurred to me, and this is a project from a student from last year. And it's a web page. So it's not a website, it's not a WordPress site, this is a standalone HTML page, but it's a good example of a web essay. So it uses web design to get its point across and interactive elements. So I'll just show you the project and then talk through the usability ideas. This is Alexander Rudenstold, who just graduated in the spring. And this was his project from, not this past spring, or fall, but I don't remember when he was in. It was a little while ago, but when he was in the class. I forget which semester he was in. But it's about identity, and so it's an essay. So like the idea is you scroll down, and then when you first, you can't see it, but when you first load it, that word next kind of appears to be typed for you as though it's like a command prompt in a terminal. And then you can click on it and then scroll down. And so there's a nice little smooth scrolling thing. So when you click on it, it scrolls to that section. And then you can read it and then click to the next one and then read that. And then you've got footnotes. I think, maybe they aren't links, I guess. But that's something, maybe they should have been links, right? So, or maybe they're not working because this is an offline version of the original project. I guess I have to look. But you notice how the fact that they're red, it kind of cues you to think of them as a link because other things that you click on are red. And so that's the repetition of the red color. You assume it to do the same thing, and it does here and here. So I don't know, and there, that's a link. That's a link. You can see the cursor changing when I click over it. So maybe I just missed one. Or maybe this one is just missing. Of course, the nice thing about the web, you can take a look at it. Oh yeah, he just has a typo in his code, I think. But yeah, no big deal. So in terms of usability, you've got, it's a lot of text, obviously. So we're essentially, our main use that we demonstrate here is just reading it. But there are some different aspects of how it's designed. We've got the visibility of the system status, like we can see it or not, basically. But also like thinking about it as a web page. I mean, again, a lot of this is sort of learning to notice things that you've gotten used to not noticing, like the scroll bar. The scroll bar is kind of telling us where we are in this document. It helps us navigate it, understand where we are, how much of it we have left, and that's a usability thing. The scroll bar is a highly refined and designed thing that hasn't evolved much actually over the past 30 or 40 years. It's something that we've gotten pretty good at using, basically, and designers have gotten pretty good at designing. We do have control. We can scroll up and down, except we can't control this. So this is something where he decided he wanted to show us Reddit, but it's the idea of Reddit. It's not the content on this Reddit page. He wants us to kind of see Reddit as a thing. And so this scrolling, we're not in control of this scroll. This is a GIF. We just kind of see it as a thing, and so it just happens there. And that was a choice that he made. So he's taken away control in this case, where we might want to scroll through Reddit or click on a link there, but he doesn't want us to. He wants us to stay on his content, read his content. So he's decided to pull that lever differently in usability. And yeah, so consistency and standards, like visually, it goes back and forth between black and white. So it's white on black initially, then black on white, back and forth like that. So it is pretty consistent. There's another typo. But the red color especially is a use of a consistent image and a consistent typographic look and function related to that. Cool. So I guess that's about all. I mean, I think it is aesthetically minimalist. It doesn't have extra bells. It does have a little bit of extra bells and whistles, I guess. Like the blinking text, like the cursor there that blinks as though it's something that's been typed. That is a little bit extra, but the way that he's done this, it actually has a good fallback if for some reason that doesn't work, or if you don't see that, you don't really need it. Like you can actually just scroll without clicking on that. So it's adding a little decoration, but it's not distracting, and it actually, I think, enhances the experience, but it also still works without it. Like it's not actually necessary to the experience because you can actually still read it. When I first opened this, this computer still wants to open things in Internet Explorer 7, and often things don't work. And this was something that didn't work the way it was supposed to in Internet Explorer 7, but it still worked. Like I could still click on the next link, and I could still scroll the content just fine. It just didn't blink. It didn't type into place like that. So anyway, just a little different. Okay, so Wayne, I don't know if you're thinking about this is definitely more essay kind of content, right? I mean, I don't know if you're thinking of it, if your work in terms of this kind of presentation, but that's an idea, I guess, of what you could do with the. Like it's essentially a research paper that looks nice and is formatted for the web, basically. And I know a couple of people are doing things like that. I guess Katya and Lindsay, I think yours is also kind of like that. Crystal, I think yours might be more like this too, Crystal, if you're watching now or later, or I think you watched the earlier stream. Anyway, so that's an example. And what else? I saw somebody typing a minute ago, but maybe not. Okay, maybe we're just saying hi. Okay, so I've been going on for a bit. I don't know if there's much else for me to cover on the stream, so I will be wrapping it up soon if not, because I'd like to check in with people that are here face to face. But if you're watching the stream, if there's something you'd like for me to look at, or if you have a question, please get it in soon, because I will be wrapping up soon if I don't hear from you. But again, just make sure you complete the worksheet and turn this in for Node 4. Just make a copy, so you go to File and then make a copy, and then fill it in for yourself. Make sure you fill things in, and should be good to go. Okay, actually, I just remembered, I do have one idea I want to leave you with here. As you think about your work, because the point of this worksheet is both to understand how to analyze this thing, but also how to apply what you've learned to making your project better. So my idea is that by filling in things in the left column, you'll understand the platform better. And then by filling in the creator column, you'll understand the things that you need to pay attention to and that you are responsible for as you create your project. So I think that hopefully that makes sense. Another way to think about the platform here, I want to give you a little bit of some media studies terminology because I think it's helpful. And to explain that, I'm gonna doodle something here. I'm gonna switch on the dot cam. So yeah, here I am. Okay, as I mentioned, I like to watch DIY videos on YouTube, and I do a little carpentry, like not much, but it's mostly stuff like the candy catapult, stuff that I just kind of throw together to make sure it works. But you learn a few things as you work on carpentry. Let me turn this way a little bit so I can still be on camera. Right, so you've all seen 2x4s, pieces of wood, I assume. Right? You know what wood is. So let's imagine this is a 2x4. So a 2x4, as I'm sure you've seen, or you can see, I think that's a fake veneer on these tables, but you can see the wood grain on it. And that's a property of wood that we're used to seeing, and we know what that is, right? So wood grain is the microscopic tubes of the tree, kind of like drinking straws, that let the tree pull moisture from the ground and nutrients from the ground and make the leaves and grow into a bigger tree and so on. So it's part of the tree structure, but it's also part of a piece of wood when you are working with a piece of lumber. And it goes in one direction. We call this direction against with the grain. We call this direction against the grain if it's going perpendicular to the way the lines are. All right. So another way you'll see the grain is if you look on the end, and this is called end grain. Whenever you look at the wood this way, if I were to turn it flat, it looks like a bunch of dots, and that's called the end grain. And so these are ways in which this is inherent to the wood. This is part of the wood. This is something that you can't change. As a carpenter, you are much better off if you work with the grain than against it. In other words, you need to know what the grain is going to do for the piece you're making as you build it. So for example, when you want to join two pieces of wood together, there's all kinds of different joints, ways that you can stick them together. And the weakest and worst kind of joint is called a butt joint. So it would be like this, like if I had another piece, and the grain of this piece goes this way, this would be a very weak joint. And it would be weak, especially if you applied force in this direction. So if I were building a table and I joined the sides of the table like this, that table is probably going to break after a little while. That's because there's not much to grab into here. Even if I put a screw through this way or a nail, the nail is just going to kind of slide between pieces of, think of them like drinking straws, like somebody has a handful of drinking straws, the nail or the screw is just kind of going to go between those straws, basically. It can't grip into it. But if it comes in from the side, it can grip that just fine. Right? Likewise, if you put glue here in that joint, it's just going to get sucked up into the end grain, and there's not going to be much left on the surface to actually make a strong bond there. So you want to do other things with that. You want to join this in different ways. Like you could overlap them and put a screw through that way, or all kinds of different things. There's a whole, carpenters can get really nerdy about different joints. But the point of this is I want to use this term bias, and I wanted to give you the illustration of carpentry to make it clear that when I talk about media bias, in this case, I'm not talking about like people being prejudiced or having political ideologies that they're not acknowledging. I'm not talking about that at all. What I'm talking about is the grain. I'm talking about the orientation of the platform, or the way that it's tilted towards working in certain ways and not in other ways. And this is something that you have to deal with if you're dealing with wood as a carpenter. Another word that's related to this is affordances. Affordances. So understanding the bias of the media or the platform, it's another way of saying it is like understanding the affordances of it, or knowing what the affordances are. And what you've done when you've created this list of the usability considerations or heuristics for your platform, you have described a lot of the biases of that platform, or the affordances of the platform. You've described the things that it's doing hopefully well, or maybe not, but you've listed those things that it's doing. So as a creative worker, as someone working with this, as a creative carpenter, I guess, working with whichever platform you're using, just make sure you pay attention to the things that it does well, and make sure that you let it do those things. If you are going to work against the grain, make sure you have a good reason. And that's something that I can just sort of say generally, but there would be different specific applications of it depending on some platforms. But this exercise hopefully helps you notice which way the grain goes of your platform, and then you can work with it better. Like that's the other point to make here. So the platform, what you're making, this is what I had in here earlier. You're looking at the affordances of that, and as a creator, you are responsible for whatever it doesn't take care of. You've got to make sure you do those things as best as you can. Okay, so I think that's good enough. I think I'll wrap it up here. So thanks for watching. Let's see, I don't think I had any, no more questions coming through on Discord, so I will wrap things up. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, the stream on Monday will be accessibility focused, so make sure you watch that. I'll have some things that you both should be doing and also legally have to do. So make sure that you watch that so that you know what to do for your project. Okay, well, I will wrap it up here.